Hello and welcome to another edition of the Movie Kit podcast. I'm your host Kit Bowen, and we're going to talk about the big movie coming out this week, Twisters. Joining me in this conversation is my very good friend Joel Amos. Joel, how are you doing today?
Doing quite well. How are you, birthday person?
Yeah, you get that? I'm doing like the wind. Get it? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
very
good.
good.
Thank you. Yes, my birthday is today, and I'm 29 years old. So I will go with that. We'll go with that.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, we're going to talk about Twister, which is a somewhat follow up to the 1996 classic Twister, which I think, in my opinion, is one of the better disaster films of all time.
Mhm.
But this time around, we're moving straight forward into the 21st century, and we've got all kinds of new technology. I will read the description here. A retired tornado chaser and meteorologist is persuaded to return to Oklahoma to work with a new team and new technologies. It's directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who directed Minari, and I guess he actually had to live through many tornadoes himself because his family had relocated to Oklahoma-ish. I think that's what I heard. Anyway, so he knows his stuff. It stars Daisy Edgar-Jones, Glen Powell, Anthony Ramos, and then we have Maura Tierney, who I love very much. Sasha Lane, Harry Haddon Patan, Brandon Pereira, and a cast of others. I will let you start us off. What did you think of Twisters?
I had a blast. I had an absolute blast. This is a summer movie. Like,
Yeah.
grab the popcorn, grab your drink, have a seat, and prepare to be literally blown away. You know, I can't recommend. It's another one where I can't recommend you see it on the either an IMAX screen or a Dolby
Yep,
theater. I saw it in the
absolutely.
Dolby theater. The screen was incredible, but the sound was just. And that's the thing is it doesn't feel all too different from the original from a tech side, but yet it does. They did a lot of like sleight of hand kind of things in the
Yeah.
original that made you think like, oh my gosh, they're in the middle of a tornado. But here you felt it. I mean, it,
Hmm.
it wasn't just watching this experience. I mean, you felt like this tornado, you heard it. Um, and you don't have a movie without some, solid performances. And I thought Glen Powell and Daisy Edgar-Jones were just great together.
Yep.
I thought they were just fantastic. I mean, Glen Powell plays a guy who you think this guy, and you
Right.
know, thankfully he's a lot deeper than what you see in the trailers. And I just got to say, it's been like very slow but sure, and I think Glenn Powell is your next big movie star.
Movie star, right?
Yeah, yeah, big
Just had
time.
this conversation. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he
yeah,
is.
I loved it too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was it. Just gonna salute Glenn.
Glenn is having a hot moment, and you can tell he is going to have that cachet because he's kind of a cross between like Tom Cruise and Ryan Reynolds. I mean,
Mm,
I feel like he'll be able to do all kinds of different things. He's proven already he can. It's from romantic
mm,
comedies to
mm.
big action things like this. I think he's just and I think we both talked about it. I'm not sure if we did or not actually. He's got a great movie on Netflix called Hitman,
Well,
which
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that was great. But
which
yeah,
he
I love
co-wrote.
this. He co-wrote it. Didn't
Yeah,
know that. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, he's great. And I love the movie too. Just loved it. I think that it was a real um there was a little bit of hesitation for my excitement because sequels can always be kind of they can mess it up, and they really kind of just went. They didn't even really make a sequel per se. It was just another look at chasing tornadoes, basically. I mean, I do think that there are parallels with the first one. I mean, we've got the character who doesn't know anything about storm chasing, who's a reporter, a British reporter who comes in to do a story on Glen Powell's character Tyler, and it ends up kind of being more about Daisy's character Kate. But so he's the one who's our eyes going, oh my god, what am I doing here, kind of thing, like Jamie Gertz for the first one. And then as far as sort of the big action moments with the tornadoes seem to kind of follow suit with what kind of how the first movie went as well. Instead of a drive-in theater, you have a rodeo, and I mean, just all of those things. But it didn't matter because they were all still great to watch. The sequences are always, you're like on the edge of your seat. And for me personally, I think having the cast that we did, I mean, Glen Powell, I think he's a good actor, but I mean, he's definitely got more of that movie star quality, and I'm pretty sure he can dig deep because Hitman, there's some moments in that I
Oh
could
yeah.
see, but Daisy Edgar-Jones, she's a tremendous actress, and I've been loving her work since Normal People, which was short that was like a limited series on Hulu, where I met her for the first time, and Paul Mescal, who's also another one that's kind of on the rise. But I felt like she kind of added a cachet to this, because it's really her story, and she has a tragedy, and just how she deals with that, and how she processes it on screen, and she's just a good actress. So I feel like if it had been in the hands of any other actors and whatnot, it may have been more cliche and retready. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
I think because of this cast, it's really good. And then of course we should shout out to Anthony Ramos as well. He's
Yeah.
you know Broadway star and whatnot, and he too added another layer to this that was kind of interesting. And the technology's different, so
Mm-hmm.
we're still trying to tame these tornadoes, man. But
Mm-hmm.
Glen Powell's character is the one that's the funniest because he's like a YouTube star, chasing after
Mm-hmm.
them, going into the middle of them with his truck and shooting off fireworks, and it's pretty laughable. But that's they're out there. That's what they do. It's not a unheard of thing. Storm
No,
chasers.
no,
So
it's in the trailer. It's just not giving it anything
right.
away, but I love it. I love it. You mentioned the fireworks, and Daisy Kate was just like, "What is
What?
that?" And then
Really?
Ramos is like, "Those are fireworks." Did he just shoot fireworks into a tornado? Like, that's the guy.
That's the guy. But yes,
Yeah.
and luckily he does. He comes off one way at first, and then certainly there's more layers to him as well. Now, I don't know if people are really expecting any sort of connection between the first one and this one. You won't really get it too much, except for perhaps Dorothy makes a reappearance
Mm-hmm.
as like an older way of tracking tornadoes. So yeah, that was kind of cool. I thought that was funny. But now it's not only is it studying the tornadoes, it's also trying to somehow dissipate them when they start. Which again, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's all good in theory, but how do you? I mean, you have to go out there the minute you see the big one or something. I just didn't know how that was all going to work out, but I suspended my disbelief on all that. But I turned to my
Yeah.
daughter. I'm like, do they have to build machines? She goes, Mom, they would just build. Yes, they would just build machines. Now stop it. Okay. Um, but yeah, and then like I said, I think Lee Isaac Chung really had a nice take to this. I mean, all of the sequences were really well done. I mean, didn't you think that?
Yeah, I thought, these action sequence, for lack of a better word, um, are just they're just devastating. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no way around it. And there's the whole idea of fear that's talked about. Like you ride
yeah,
your fear, or you face your fears, or whatever you want to cliche you have there. The thing is, it's easy to say until you actually are facing a fear, which is the idea
right.
you might lose your life. And I feel like that really, they get a couple of close shaves, and that really starts to change them, and they show that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think the action sequences are amazing, and I don't, I mean, I know that in the original they experienced firsthand some tornadoes, but like this whole idea of driving into one is certainly new and had to be accommodated cinematically. And I thought those were
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, just how
Yeah.
he anchored his truck down
Yep. Yeah, no, I know. It's pretty amazing.
and
And yeah, you're right about the devastation. They spent a little more time about that on in this one than they did in the
mhm,
first one. This one definitely showed because I mean, look, we all know what's happening right now. It's crazy, and they just keep coming, and they're popping up. Tornadoes are popping up in places like Chicago now. I mean, it's unreal. But of course, in this part of the country, these tornadoes are so massive and they cause so much damage. And I think all of us who haven't experienced anything like that. I mean, I've lived through hurricanes and I've lived through earthquakes, and those are all bad too. But for some reason, tornadoes seem to be so immediate and so, so devastating, just like in the span of however long they last, like 20
yeah,
minutes, they can wipe out an entire town. It's crazy. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it is. It is. And I actually lived through one once when I lived in Ohio as a kid.
Ooh,
Um, and it took out a couple of doors down. It took out that house. It missed our house, but it was coming right for our house. And I just
wow.
remember I was like 8 years old, and I remember just I was sick as a dog. I had a huge fever, and my parents woke me up and they're like, "Time to go to the
Gotta
basement." And I
go.
was so mad at them. And I was like, "I'm sick. I don't want to go anywhere." I just remember that that sticks out in my head, not the tornado, but the complaining about I don't want to get up. I feel sick. And finally, my dad just picked me up and like, "Come on," you know. But a
Wow.
couple of things I wanted to point out is there is a little connection to the first one. Bill Paxton's son, James Paxton, plays Cody. I'm not
Right.
necessarily sure who Cody is in the movie. I
think
can't
he's I think
remember.
he's in New York when she's in New York. She
Oh,
may
right. Okay.
he may be one of the people that was working with her,
Right.
the
Um,
Kate's character. Yeah.
so anyway, that's a minor connection.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
great to see.
actually,
Yeah.
Livy and I had a theory about Glen Powell, which was, we got her, we got Kate's full pretty much background, and how she grew up and loving storms and that kind of thing. And then Glen Powell kind of says, "Yeah, well, I too had experience and I was fascinated, but we're not still not quite sure where he comes from." So we were speculating that he's actually the son of Paxton and Helen Hunt's characters from the first one, but we'll see. I mean, if they do a sequel, which probably they will, because I have a feeling this is gonna make a lot of money, and these two characters were so great together, it would be fun to see them again. Maybe
Hmm.
trying to put in action with what they end up doing at the end of this one, but then maybe we might get more info. But I don't know. That's just a theory. What do you think?
It's not a bad one.
Yeah,
It leaves it open.
yeah,
Um, there are like a couple of complaints that one, they basically all but say, global warming is causing
yeah,
all of this, floods everywhere, droughts, blah, blah, blah. But they never actually say it's global warming. And a lot
yeah.
of people are theorizing that's because a lot of middle America maybe doesn't believe in it, and it's going to be the heart of the audience for this film, so they don't want to alienate anybody.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
and it's a cop out that they did. I'm just like, I don't think you don't have to hit somebody over the head with it. It's
Yeah.
obvious to me. And the other thing is that there was a kiss between Tyler and Kate, but the director decided to cut it and thought it added nothing to the story. And I'm wondering if you think that would have added something to it, or if again that's just
Well,
superfluous.
I mean, we don't want to give too many spoilers away, but at the very end of the film, it's pretty obvious without
Yeah,
them actually having to
yeah.
that there's
So
definitely something between them, and that they're willing to go off and work together, kind of thing. So
yeah, and
I
I
guess
think that
it didn't bother me, actually. It didn't bother me. I
me
mean, I
either.
felt the attraction anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you need to give the audience a little credit.
Yeah,
Like they don't need to be shown things. We used to, I mean, for some reason the movie Signs is back in the top 10 on Netflix, and people are trying
Hmm.
to figure out why, but maybe because he's his new movie's coming out in August. I don't know. But Signs, I mean, to me, the greatest thing about Signs is that all the horror is happening outside of the house,
Right.
and you don't
Exactly.
necessarily see it. So it's like people love that movie, and they don't hold your hand through anything in that movie,
Yeah.
and you only really get to see one alien, or except for one on TV, and people love that movie. So I mean, you
Yeah.
don't have to dot every I and cross every T. I
No, I
mean,
mean
just
that was the truly horrifying part was that their reaction to what was going on, uh
right,
was way creepier than having it all just right in front of your face kind of thing. So, which,
exactly.
is I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet or not, but Quiet Place, day one,
Mhm.
um, the first Quiet Place also was more of a, you kind of see them, but you don't really see them up close. I mean, I guess at the very end of the first one, you kind of do. Yes, I get that, but still, it's that idea that they're always out there, and you
Mhm.
just don't know where they are. And then in the second one, kind of similar, but they show them a little bit more, and you still get the idea that they're around somewhere, but it's still not in your face. But day
Mm.
one, you
They're
see
everywhere.
them and you see them and you see them, and it's fascinating too because there's but it still worked as a film, even if it still scared the crap out of you, even if you are now seeing
Mhm.
that you're now seeing the aliens up close and personal. Still just as scary. But yeah, I agree with you. This did not need any kind of a major love connection at all, and um, it's implied, and it didn't need to be shown, so I wasn't bothered by it at all.
Nope.
I mean,
Nope.
I was
That's right.
expecting it, but I wasn't bothered by it. But yeah,
Right.
so anyway,
I
so
almost say
what?
good for them for not showing it.
Right, they kind of kept it
Twisters.
more about the twisters, yeah, more about these horrible, horrible, horrible tornadoes. So anyway, what would your rating be, 1 to 5 stars for this?
I go 4.5.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Half off
Yeah,
for just being a little bit retready, a couple of
a little
times.
bit.
I'm like, okay. But yes,
Yeah.
but not enough to make me not love the movie and watching it. And I know you said at the beginning, but couldn't stress it big enough or more enough than to see it on a big, big, big screen. This is the biggest screen you
Yes.
could possibly see it on because you really
Yes.
want to experience it. And it's one of those movies you need to see in the big theater. So definitely go out
Um,
and check that out.
and one more thing too. I guess they determined that these things are now called legacy sequels, which is sequels that take like 30 years to make or whatever.
Right.
What's interesting is the guy who co-wrote this is Joseph Kosinski, and he's the guy behind Top Gun Maverick.
Ah, right.
So I think somebody is going to get a lot of phone calls about reviving older properties and hey, what can you
Yeah.
do with it?
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, so there's
Well, and again, I think making this almost a completely new standalone type film
mhm,
is also a good idea. I mean, I suppose we'd want to see maybe what happened, but obviously we know Bill Paxton's no longer with us, which is so sad. So, I mean, his character would have to be, probably dead or whatever. But we'll see. And like I said, maybe there's a sequel. Maybe Helen Hunt might make an appearance. Who knows? Who
who
knows? But
knows?
I think it would be cool. That's just
Yes,
me. That's just me. Well, thank you, Joel, as always. Great conversation with you.
yes,
Hopefully, we might be able to do Deadpool Wolverine next week.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll be back again next week with another review with the Deadpool Wolverine, the next of the Deadpool's movies. Looking forward to that one. So far, summer's been pretty good for me anyway. I'm really enjoying these movies,
Pretty good.
even if they've tapered down a little bit because of the strikes and stuff. I'm still pretty jazzed about what's coming up. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's good stuff. All right, thanks again, Joel, and we'll talk to you everyone next week.